Welcome to Introduction to Object-Oriented Programming. In Java, an object is a basic unit that encapsulates both data and behavior. Objects are instances of classes, and a class is like a blueprint for creating objects. This might seem a little circular. Well, it is. Objects and classes are symbiotic. They are one and the same. When you define a class, you define the variables and the methods that the object can have. A class is actually its own data type defined by the programmer, and it's important to understand that each class should have a separate file in the file system, a .java file, and the class name and the file name must be the same. If you break this rule, you'll know right away it won't work, and it'll throw errors and cause you grief and a lot of headaches. So always name your class and the file name that class is contained in the same. And also recall from Java notation that the first letter of each word should be capitalized. It's just a good habit to do that, and then you'll always be able to recognize something and know right away it's a class because each word is capitalized. Now, a lot of this might seem really abstract and difficult to understand, and it can be complicated. But trust me that as you write programs and over time, it'll all start to make a lot more sense. The next thing that you need to know is the access modifiers. If you have a method that's private, it is only accessible within the same class. You can't access a private method outside of that class. Public means anywhere in the source. It can be accessed and it's not hidden in any way. Protected is a little more complicated. Protected is accessible within the package unless it's inherited, and we'll cover that later. It's an exception. It's fairly rare, but it's something you need to understand, and again, we will cover that later. For now, we're going to deal with mainly public and private. And then one thing you should also understand is if the access modifier is omitted, the access by default will be public. And each method also has a return type. A method may not return more than one value, and it may return void or no return type. And a good way to get around the single return type limitation is you can have it return an array or an object which does contain multiple variables, values, that type thing. Objects can be very complicated. It can have other objects. But as long as it only returns one thing, then your method is valid. But again, it can be complicated and could have subcomponents is a good way to get around that. And then finally, understand that constructors have no return type. We'll get into constructors more, but that's something you just need to learn right off the bat. Is if you have a method and it has no return type, well, it's because it's a constructor, and that's by design. And if you need to know if something is a constructor, if it doesn't have a return type, it is. So that's enough for now.